To today in the news on Vanguard Live. I'm Damlola Ogushaki, and this morning I'll be reviewing the front pages of the dailies and also analyzing them. And of course, I'm starting with Vanguard. Vanguard this morning is leading with "How I Will Fight Insecurity and Boost Economy" by Tinubu. Kwankwaso presents 160-page manifesto in Abuja. Tinubu target double-digit GDP growth, vows to recruit more men into security services, adds we must produce and buy Nigerian. Out of school children problem over in 4 years, says Kwankwaso. To make JAMB WAEC registration free, recruit 750,000 into military, raise police strength to 1 million. Candidates must walk the talk. Manifestos not enough. That's coming from OPS, and you can see that story on page 5 of Vanguard newspaper. And here we have two photo stories. The first one is showing the head of brands and protocol for West Africa and sales and production manager at the MOU signing event between Procode and Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria in just yesterday. The second story is also showing a picture of the program that's offering 20 houses, 24 brand new cars, among other mouse-watching prizes by Globacom at the Mike Adenuga Towers, Lagos yesterday. Now on page 7, we have 2023 will prosecute perpetrators of electoral violence. That's coming from MALAMI. On page 12, medical vacation. Buhari must hand over to Oshibajo. That's coming from Clark. NECA backs federal government on fuel subsidy remover. Kaduna Christians paid over 300 million naira to bandits. Can't perform a pilgrimage. That's coming from Christian Association of Nigeria. Nigeria's flood. United Nations appeals to donors for more funds. You can see that on page 7. On page 9, the stories above, we have Ohaneze, Igbo leaders mourn as Mbazulike Amechi, last Zikist, dies at 93. A police squeeze 8 domestic staff over death of Davido's son. And lastly, on the front page of Vanguard, we have Forex. Turnover in I&E window falls 69% to $1.5 billion. You can see that story on page 19 of the Vanguard newspaper. And away from there, we move to The Guardian. The Guardian this morning is leading with 2023 rift widens in Southwest over Afeniferi's endorsement style. Conscious of Yoruba Nation endorsed Tinubu, not Afenifere. I remain Afenifere leader. We are backing Tinubu. Fashoranti insists. Southwest student asks Adebajo to set them aside grudges and adopt Tinubu. Tinubu rules private sector, promises double GDP if he wins. Manifestos not enough. Walk the talk, expert tells presidential candidates. You can see that story on page 6. And of course, lastly, on the front page of the Guardian newspaper, we have Akintoye laments a foreign terrorist invasion of Southwest, and you can see that on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. And away from there, we'll move to The Nation. The Nation this morning is leading with our unbundled transmission to provide power, says Tinubu. Restates commitment to double-digit GDP. Promises consumer credit revolution and renewed anti-terror war. You can see that on page 4. 117 Nigerians evacuated from Libya. Woman dies in Kwara gas explosion. You can see those stories on pages 8 and 2. And lastly, on The Nation newspaper, we have investors lose 2.8 trillion naira as sell-off worsens. You can see that on page 12 of The Nation newspaper. Away from there, we move to The Punch. The Punch this morning is leading with dollar crisis. EFCC plans massive raid on Forex dealers. Naira's free fall worsens, now 857 naira. Abuja Forex leaders flee into hiding. Kogi politicians arrested with 326 million naira. BDC operators back commission. Stories above, we have Davido. Autopsy likely as police free 6 workers detained 2. Grieving Davido Chioma moms keep mom as artists, celebs, fans lament Ifeanyi's death. Oshu PDP suspends political activities. Atiku, Tinubu, Obi, governors condole. You can see that story on page 3 of the Punch newspaper. And that's all we have on the front pages of dailies this morning. Join us after the break as our guest will be joining us to analyze the stories. All right, welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Today in the News on Vanguard Live. I'm Dablola Okunshakin. Joining me to analyze the front pages of the dailies this morning is Mr. Gbero Olajigbe. He's the Executive Director of Emergency and Risk Alert. Good morning, Mr. Gbero.
Good morning. It's a pleasure being with you.
Yes, same here. All right, let's move straight to the front pages of the dailies. And of course, Tinubu and other presidential candidates have started bringing out their promises. And according to Tinubu, he says that he will fight insecurity and boost the economy. He also targets double-digit GDP growth. Also, he vows to recruit more men into security services. While we have Kwankwaso said, he will make JAMB WAEC registration free and recruit 750,000 people into the military. What do you think about these promises?
Well, manifesto will remain manifesto, and anybody can write a beautiful thing and everything. But how it will be done? So he has started explaining how it will be done, but I'm here to see a very clear, because one manifesto is like a strategy, but I want it to be broken into programs and into the projects that will eventually become impactful on the life of Nigeria. For example, what does it mean when you say that you are going to recruit more people into Nigeria military, into Nigeria district? The fact is that if you done contextual analysis, is the problem the number of people in the armed forces? You know, we have armed forces that have a lot of number now. For example, police has over 300,000 persons. You find out that more than half of this are doing legal work for private person and public persons. Allocated, you have an individual having about 8 police and everything. You have to stop that and then look at the issue of technology. It's not about number. Fighting war across the world now is not about the number. It must be the approach must be holistic. For example, you have to tackle why people become insurgent before you fight insurgency. How do they become? Is it as a result of unemployment? All those things will contribute to enhance security. So the context is not clear. If it is about bullets, I think it's very easy to do that, to engage people, to employ them. But it is more than that. If you kill those that are currently fighting, how are you preventing other entrants who are feeling rejected by society because of lengthy years of unemployment, the overblowing employment market, and all those type of things? So the issue is a combination of what you call human security, that is meeting the needs of the people, so that they don't deviate from the norm of society. So when you are able to achieve that and balance that, is then you can now begin to talk. When you have exceptional people who, in spite of all the social protection you have put in place, decides to be criminal, then you can be talking of bullets. So the combination that I want to see in any of their manifesto, whether Bola Tinubu, Atiku, Obi, and the rest, is combination of what we often call carrot and stick, and not about stick alone, because he can't do that. He can't achieve that. A lot of Nigerian youth now are getting more radicalized, and many of them, for example, it's even scandalous that you now have over 20 million out of school children. Where are they going to go? So they have they are reservation for future violence if we don't do anything about that one. So we should not be looking. I think a futuristic manifesto should not be looking at the current context. They should be looking at the implication of what is happening for the future. Future starts for them in 2023.
All right, Tinubu laid out his action plan before the business leaders. He said, having achieved economic success as Lagos State Governor, he has the capacity to repeat the same at the national level as president, saying that him and his team, they developed a blueprint to change Nigeria into what it is today. So to change Lagos rather into what it is today. What do you think about this example he gave?
Well, I don't know what he has done in changing Lagos. He shouldn't be appropriating what Fashola has done what Ambode has done and what specifically he should speak about 1999 to 2007. That was his government, and not that he has changed Lagos. I knew that at that particular time, he was putting signposts on the road that bear with us. This road belongs to federal government, particularly in my own area where I stay in Lagos. And he put that signboard there. I can clearly remember that. Oshodi was a jungle during his time. It was Fashola that cleared Oshodi and made the place look decent. Morue was everywhere during his time. I don't want us to be missing issue. But this is the same person that have been blaming non-performance on 16 years of PDP. Why is he saying, is he building his own campaign around himself and not around his party? Because he knows that the party has abysmally failed. So I don't think that, because he made the same promise when Buhari was to come in power. In fact, he said he stood for Buhari, he guaranteed that Buhari will perform. And he was telling Nigeria vociferously across nooks and crannies of Nigeria during campaign. I don't trust politicians as such when it comes to campaign and everything. And I want to tell Nigerians, look at the situation in Lagos now. Look at the situation in Lagos. What is governance? Agbero governance that can no longer make people access transportation today. Is that the legacy? Is that not part of legacy? Those are the critical things to the people. Workers cannot get to work now because Agbero has taken over Lagos and drivers are protesting. Is that the legal? Those are the issues that touch the poor people, and not talking to the business class. The business class are those who have this. Those who have this, who are owners of this production means. But then they need workers to oil them. If workers cannot access work because of behavior which is politically induced, the Agbero syndrome in Lagos is politically induced, and you have even elevated it to an official level. So those are issues, critical, they look small, but they are issues that affect a lot of majority. So it should equally bring that on board because it's a security issue too. So these are things that he should not be talking nebulously about what he did in Lagos. He should spell out what he did between 1999 and 2007. Others have the right to their own tenure and to their own achievement. Since he's now campaigning on individual basis, so he should isolate the tenures of other governors in Lagos and focus on his own tenure. And let us see clearly what he has done in Lagos.
Let's move away from that and also talk about Kwankwaso. Kwankwaso released his 150-page manifesto titled "My Pledges to You." And in this manifesto, he noted that aside from that, that he will ensure free parents don't pay a dime as registration fee for WAEC and also JAMB. And we also ensure that under his administration, JAMB results will have a lifespan of 4 years. I mean, this is not the first time we're hearing this, but of course, he's still saying it again.
Not true. Lifetime. Because one, if you look at it, about 3 sets are on the ground now that have not been offered admission. 2020, 2029, they couldn't complete a semester before the strike of 2020 and the COVID. And you still have 2020, 2021, and we're almost going, the 2022 class are yet to resume in public universities. So, how is he now looking at a way where strike would be the usual thing in Nigeria, that you have to keep JAMB resort? The lifespan has to be for 4 years. Those are not critical issues to education. The critical issues to education in Nigeria is about what are the critical issues in education. One, the teachers. How do you train teachers and retrain them and professionalize them, and they are well paid? Those are critical issues to functional education in Nigeria, and not that I will pay for why, I will pay for this thing. What happened to education is that is not. Is he talking about free education? We want the directive, the strategic direction of each of them. What is the strategic direction in respect to education? That is what we want to see. Not a issue of activities of pay for this or pay for this. What is the strategic direction? What happens to the teachers? What happens to the pupils? Is he going to review the curriculum of Nigeria to make it context related? That is the context of unemployment, the context of having functional education in our school. Is he going to review that? Is he going to make education free, and to what level? Those are issues he should talk about, and not the pedestrian issue of buying WAEC form, paying for WAEC, making a jump admission lifespan to 5 years. Even if you like, let it be lifetime. That is not the issue.
All right. The Attorney General of the Federation, that Abubakar Malami San, yesterday said the federal government has initiated a process that will ensure speedy prosecution of those involved in electoral violence. Now, what do you think about this, their preparation before the election? Can they succeed?
Not true. He has been Attorney General for nearly 7 years. There was no Attorney General in the first few months of Buhari's regime. So it's now that he wants to start. He should come, look, you build on what you have done for people to believe. This is what we have done in terms of electoral issue in Nigeria in the last 7 years that I've been Attorney General. Then we can believe you. Do you build something on nothing? You have not done it. It has assumed the life of its own. People buying votes as if they are buying bread, and they buy, they induce workers, they perpetrate a lot of atrocity, electoral violence, and such things that are hostile to electoral system of any decent and sane society. Yet you accommodated it, and you are talking now. This is the same Attorney General who is political in nature. Do you realize that they wanted to go and contest election in Kebbi State as governor before Buhari asked them to resign, and he had no courage to resign? So his statement should be taken with pinch of salt. His political statement is not in accordance with the performance of the governments that he represents, and he does not have history to what he wants Nigeria to believe. So nobody should just take most of these people serious without subjecting what they say to critical analysis.
All right. The removal of petrol subsidy have actually generated so much controversies in the past. Now, NECA has supported federal government to, of course, to remove subsidy. What do you think about this? I mean, you are experiencing a lot of things in Nigeria.
They are just deceiving Nigeria. There is nothing called subsidy. I've said it for the often time. Let me say it. There is nothing called subsidy. There is what Nigeria is paying for. What we are paying for is inefficiency of the government. For example, let me give you a classical example. Petrol was cheap when dollar was 500 naira, cheaper than this when dollar was 500 naira, which is even high as far as Nigerians were concerned then. Now, do you want that petrol that we import to still retain the same price when it's almost 850 naira to $1 today? So tomorrow, okay, at what point do we stop talking about subsidy? But Nigerians should not be bamboozled. The clear issue here is that we have a currency that is not strong, that is not strengthening because of our importation policy. How can you import your critical material and then you expect your currency to be strong? So you are not in control of what they are saying. If petrols, assuming that, ask them now, what do they mean by what is actually the subsidy? They will tell you, assuming that it's 500, you are paying subsidy per liter of 20 naira today. When dollar increases tomorrow, that means that you are returned to where you are coming from. They continue to talk of subsidy. As long as we don't produce our fuel here, there will be no end to this criminal enterprise that is given context to what he has achieved through the back door of corruption. So,
but Mr. who is waiting for Dangote refinery?
Which Dangote refinery? Is that what a government should be planning for? A government does not build its policy on individuals' investment. One, this is government that promised to build 4 refineries in 4 years when it was coming in for 2015. as a promise. And today you want me to be talking of manifesto that is written. And he has not done one in nearly 8 years. And we kept on importing throughout. I'm not saying that Dangote refinery will only moderate the effect of what we are what we are having. And do you know that even Dangote is a businessman too? So it's going to be a very mindless capitalist economy too. The situation then will still be mindless capitalism that we have, because one, they may now come together and say every oil producing nation reserve for their country as to stabilize the price within their country. But in Nigeria, no policy, like they may now say that we have to be selling to Dangote as international price. Because anything can happen in Nigeria. And Dangote will equally put the margin of his profit. Since I am buying oil per barrel at international market rate, this is what it's going to be. There must be dedicated amount for that. And do you want to dedicate what should serve as social services to your country to a private company? In Saudi Arabia, state controls the oil. That is not to say private bodies are not there. The oil is stabilized, is privatized, they monitor what they see. Is it not? Are we not talking today? Which is they have outsourced protection of pipeline to this guy, government, Tompolo, and he has revealed how criminal the military and others that have the statutory responsibility to do that have been in the area by thieving our oil theft everywhere. And this, what has the government done about that? So that means that there is a problem, there is a collusion to shorten Nigeria and frustrate social and economic stability by continued stealing of oils and at the same time by continuation of importation of fuel. So nation stability, whether economic stability, social stability, on most will not be achieved until we stop importation of fuel. What that stoppage will do is that one is going to give Nigeria price we can pay based on our context, and at the same time, it's going to conserve a lot of foreign exchanges that we spend on importing oil fuel today. And what that does is it will logically strengthen Nigeria as competitive currency in the world. Do you know what every oil producing country around the world today are dancing? They are rejoicing because they are making profit. But we are not, our own case is even worse. We are not making profit, we are losing, and it's weakening our naira and is inducing hunger because price of goods will skyrocket because of cost of transportation.
Mr. Aguero, thank you very much, but let's end this on a lighter note with Mr. and Mrs. And the first person speaking today is Mrs. She says, my uncles complained that the cow you gave them for my father's burial ceremony was too skinny. And Mr. replied, they asked for a cow, not an elephant.
Yeah, that's a good response. Everyone is not skinny in Nigeria today, except those that are skinny. If human being are skinny, what do you talk of cow? Is it not when you eat that you give your dog to eat? Okay. I think we should just accommodate ourselves. Whatever we do, we should just accept and move on in life. So the father, may the father of Mrs. rest in peace. And they live in harmony at home too.
Amen. Thank you very much, Mr. Aguero Olajuigbe, for joining us this morning.
It's a pleasure being with you. Thank you.
And he's the Executive Director of Emergency and Risk Alert. He just reviewed and analyzed some of the stories on the front pages with us this morning. Now, to get more of our top stories, you can follow us on all our social media platforms showing on your screen. On Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, our WhatsApp number is also displayed on your screen. My name is Damlola Ogunshaki.